Hey, what's up? I'm Ray Green, former executive turned nomad entrepreneur. I was managing director of national small and mid-sized business for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. I was a CEO of private equity-backed companies and ran a couple turnarounds, all before I picked up my family and moved to a remote Mexican beach. And in my community of other corporate refugees, people who are monetizing their experience and their knowledge and their experience online, I bring in a monthly guest speaker. And that speaker is usually somebody who is an expert in a field, is hard to access otherwise, and can contribute a ton of knowledge. And then we dive in, we do an interview, we ask some questions, and then we open it up to the community for Q&A. And this month I brought in Steve Sims, who is, according to Forbes, the real life Wizard of Oz. Now, one thing you may think is, wasn't the Wizard of Oz fake? Oh, we're going to hit on that very early in the video. He is a multi-time bestseller. He was, for 25 years, Mr. Fix-It to the world's wealthiest people on the planet. He helped them do crazy stuff, like get on stage with their favorite rock band at concerts like Guns N' Roses and Journey. He's taken people to see the wreckage of the Titanic. He's closed down international museums. He's helped his clients have dinner at the feet of, David, the statue, and be serenaded by some of the world's top musicians, like just crazy stuff. He did that for 25 years. So he's learned a thing or two about building a network and getting access to things. He's also the co-founder of Sims Media, which is a marketing agency for other influencers and people who are building big brands online. We're going to cover a lot of ground. We're going to cover general entrepreneurship. We're going to cover building a personal brand. We're going to cover his experience in working with billionaires for a large part of his life. And of course, we are going to cover why Forbes called him the real life Wizard of Oz and what he thought about that. Now, if you don't know Steve, stay for just a minute because you're going to learn really quickly that he is no bullshit, no nonsense, very direct, and this was a very fun conversation. So here we go. I'm really stoked about this because I've known Steve for a few years now. And if you were looking for typical fluff guru stuff, like this is not the right room to be in. Like we are going to get some no bullshit, no nonsense, like very direct, good, strong opinions. And I've been looking forward to this for a while now. Now, real quick intro for Steve. He's the founder of luxury concierge service, Bluefish. He's the author of 2 best-selling books, Bluefishing, The Art of Making Things Happen, and Go for Stupid, The Art of Achieving Ridiculous Goals. He has the reputation. Forbes called you the real life Wizard of Oz. And, basically you're known for like creating once in a lifetime experiences for very, very high profile people. You've done, I've read some of these stories, man, and it's like you've sent people down to the wreck of the Titanic, placed clients on stage with their favorite rock group. I think it was Journey.
It's been a few different, but yeah.
Yeah. You once got one of your clients a cameo in a Hollywood blockbuster. You've worked with Sir Richard Branson, Sir Elton John, and you've been known to get those impossible VIP access, like red carpet events for like the Oscars, Formula One racing, and really prestigious fashion shows. And the cool thing is there's not like just one thing that we can talk about. Like there's a lot that we can talk about. We could talk entrepreneurship. We can talk personal branding, which you've done a great deal of yourself and with clients. Speaking, which I know you help a lot of people figure out how to get themselves on speaking circuit and do really well and leverage that for business development and grow their brand. And a lot more. So we can cover a lot of ground. And I say that to you as the community too. Like there's no questions that are, all out of bounds here. But like I said, this is, I'm expecting no nonsense, no bullshit here. And I want to start actually with the Wizard of Oz, because I posted this up on my LinkedIn yesterday. And I've been like, in terms of intros, I've used that with you for a while now. And somebody posted a comment and said, "Hey, but the real life the Wizard of Oz was fake." And I went, I've never actually thought about that, like from a title standpoint. Can you give me real quick, like what is the background on the Wizard of Oz? And did you ever take it that way?
Yes, I took it that way very aggressively. But the thing was that for 25 years, and you got to understand, I was the Mr. Fix-It to the most powerful people in the planet. About 15% of my clients, you would know their names. The rest of the clients were people from all over the planet, far wealthier, far more powerful, that you had no idea who they were. And I had helped out someone that I met at Forbes at a party once, and they would use me as a resource. Like, if people are going to Monaco, what's the best restaurant? If people are going to Egypt, where should they go for the hotel? Are there any private parties at like the fashion week in China? So I would end up being, just as a friend, I would help them out, and they would always be an undisclosed source. So they would never reveal who I was. And I loved it. For 25 years, the Wall Street Journal called me the most connected man in the world that you've never heard of. And that was, I think, a better title. But then one day, they actually contacted me asking me a few questions for about 3 or 4 different locations. And I was like, this is getting like an interview. And they were like, yeah. And I'd become really good friends with the people in Forbes. And then all of a sudden, I'm laid in bed, and I get a phone call from a buddy of mine, and I don't usually take the phone to bed. I'm like, oh crap, so I ignored it. He kept on phoning, and then eventually I answered it, and he goes, yo, wizard, how you doing? And I was like, I'm in bed. What do you want? He's like, wizard. And I'm like, all right, it's not funny. You're the wizard of, and he kept on. And I got quite aggressive with it. And I said to him, tell me what you're about. I'll just off, like, kind of thing. And he's like, you haven't seen it? And I had no idea what he was talking about. And he sent me the article. Forbes had decided as a friend to write an 8-page article on me in Forbes. And in one of the elements of it, they called it, and they've actually changed the title now to The Man with the Coolest Job. But at the time, they actually had up on there, The Real Life Wizard of Oz. And I thought to myself, oh my God, the Wizard of Oz was a flake, He hid behind a curtain, basically a big old pervert there, And I'm thinking, my God, this is what people are going to think. No one took it that way. Everyone took it that I was the real man that created magic and stuff like that. I actually consulted an attorney to see what I could do about it. I contacted Forbes, and I'm like, what are you doing? You're calling me a fake. You're calling me a flake. For one, I'm supposed to be unknown. I don't want anyone knowing about me. And secondly, you call me this. So they did do a little bit of a tweak. But in all of that time, and I think it's been like about 10 years now since that article came out, as I said to you earlier, less than 10 people in the planet have ever turned around and gone, but wasn't he a fake? What was worse was that by 1 o'clock that day, it killed about 60% of my business, because all the most powerful people in the planet who had gone, oh yeah, Elton's coming to my birthday party. Oh yes, I'm playing basketball with Shaquille O'Neal. Oh yes, I'm on stage with Guns N' Roses. They were claiming it was their ability and their power and all of a sudden I became revealed as the hidden man behind these magical wishes. So I literally had some very powerful people phoning me going, Steve, congratulations on the article. I hope it does really, really well for you, but you can't be in my circle anymore because I can't have people thinking it was you and not my connections. So I lost a lot of money by 1 o'clock in the day. It was quite a terrible period. I got loads of millionaire clients, people that wanted to live the life of a billionaire, but my billionaire clients started to kind of like, teeter off. But then, following that, I got approached by Simon & Schuster to do the book. So it became good again, but it was quite a dark few months, to be completely honest with you.
So all press is not necessarily good press?
I'm a great believer that, not all press is good press, and especially as today, because I didn't pay anything for that article, but let's be blunt, you could very easily go and buy an article in Forbes today. We're in a period of low tolerance and immense distrust. And we're hugely fast to judge and very, very slow to actually look into the facts. So I don't trust the press. A common statement is fake news. So I ask you now, if I'd come to anyone here 10 years ago and gone, hey, would you like an 8-page article in Forbes? You'd be like, oh, please. But if I said to you today, would you like an 8-page article in a major publication? You'd be like, no one reads publications. Who cares? So you've really got to, and you mentioned about speaking on stages, you've really got to determine where is the maximum ROI? What platform is that? You're brilliant on LinkedIn. I do a lot of work on stages. So you really got to identify. And that platform at the moment, and maybe it'll come back, maybe it never will, but that medium for maximum ROI is not in the press anymore.
And you mentioned something like you, at one point, you wanted to be not known, like intentionally. So this kind of nuked that part of it. But now you think about it, we talk a lot about personal branding. And kind of a interesting story when we first met. So we met at a mutual friend, Robin Robbins' event, right? And we had drinks afterwards. And the next day, or a couple days later, like our next conversation, you said, hey, I was looking around on your website and it's dark and you're wearing a polo and this doesn't look the same as this. And, when we talked the other night, you said you live in Cabo, like you're doing all your content in tank tops. You used to be, worked for the Chamber. He goes, and Steve told me, he said, you might be the only person that I know that's more interesting in real life than you are online. And I thought, ouch. But you called out something, and it was that the branding across different platforms wasn't necessarily focused on what I was doing and who I was. It didn't call out what I was doing that was unique. It wasn't consistent to different platforms. And after that, I started making changes, right? Like started implementing things. It was immediately after that I changed all my profile pictures to a guy in a tank top. Why not? All my fucking content's in a tank top. Like, why was that? And I don't know. Like, I'm an okay marketer, but I was like, shit, like somebody just called me out on that. And we've talked a lot about personal branding. You obviously, the Forbes article, everything else has contributed. If you had to start over, like from a personal branding standpoint, and you had to do it from scratch, what would your thought process be on building the brand of Steve Sims if you were hitting the reset on it?
If I was to say to everyone here, just for those people that have got that camera on, how many of you are professional speakers? Put your hand up if you're a professional speaker. All right, so no one put their hands up. But how many of you will be bankrupt within a year if you lost your voice? You see, quite often we actually get paid to communicate. And if we get paid for that communication, we're a professional speaker. So whenever you learn about speaking, there are two rules that you learn. And you mentioned the word marketer, so everyone knows the first one. If you're going to speak or communicate with anyone, the first rule is know your audience. Everyone knows that. But a comedian friend of mine actually taught me the number 2 golden rule for when you communicate with your audience: know the temperature of the room. And that's where everyone goes wrong today. You see, if we look at the planet today, everyone's coming up to the election. We're being fed misdirection, miscommunication, noise, hatred, violence, wars, depression. We've got all of that going on. So we're in a world today where we're not tolerant and we're not trusting. Everything we see, we go, that can't be true. So in the world today, when you brand today, there is one single element you've got to focus on, and that's clarity. There's a difference between being easy to understand and impossible to misunderstand. So when you brand today, I don't care about you going, well, I've got to get a fancy car. No, you haven't. You've got to be clinically clear with who you are, what you stand for, and what you believe in, and then resonate to those people that you want to work with. See, in the old days, a lot of people used to do a marketing campaign to catch as many people as you could. And when you catch a lot of people, you actually sync with no one. So in today's branding world, stand up and go, I like eating burgers. I love drinking bourbon. I love riding motorcycles. I love adopting pit bulls, and resonate to those people that go, oh, do you know, I like the same thing. And so branding today is not a logo. It's not a slogan. It's not a mission statement. They've all got their own words for those things. Today, a brand is being impossible to misunderstand and allowing the person looking at you from 30,000 feet to go, that's the person I need in my room. That's the person I need to shake me up. That's the person I need to disrupt the way I think. They need you to become the solution to that problem, crystal clear, and that should be on every element of your branding today. And with you, it wasn't, when we spoke about, and don't feel bad about it, the worst person to brand themselves is usually you, because, you're too close to it. And when I spent 25 years being the most unknown person to do this, and I loved it. I loved that anonymity. I loved not being known. I remember I went to a party that I threw in Monaco, and I was actually doing it for Prince Albert, who, the highest royal member of the family of Monaco. This guest came in, threw me his car keys because he had pulled up to the valet and walked in with the car keys and thought I was security. And I was like, sure. I went and gave the keys. I didn't care. But it changed. And so when I had to focus on my brand, I got people close to me, and those people not close to me to view who I was so that we could actually put it out there. So don't feel bad about getting it wrong on yourself. Most people do.
Where they say you can't, it's tough to read the label from inside the jar, basically.
100%.
Yeah. When you think of the brand, how do you tie that into authenticity and who you are as a person versus what you're trying to do as a business? And I guess like when you think, maybe more specifically, when you think of personal branding, what are the elements that you kind of recommend people think about like you said, I know when I think of Steve Sims, I think there's going to be, very direct, blunt, there's old fashions, but those aren't all things that are necessarily part of your offers per se. Like it's not like your niche down marketing. So like, what elements do you think of should go into a personal brand? Like what parts of a personality versus what parts of the business and the offers? Like, how do you tie that together?
Well, for a start, I hate the word authenticity. I really, really violently hate that word. We should look at focusing on transparency. And, if we look at anyone, we want to know what they're doing, because we meet someone today and we're like, what are you after? You're going to try and sell me. But if I walked up to you and I went, hey, I own a tire garage and I can get you a really good deal on tires. Do you need tires? You'd go yes or no. It would be a very, very easy conversation. But like on LinkedIn or on social where people go, hey, I'd like to follow. Hey, how's your day? Oh, what are you up? Something's coming and you feel suspicious and you hate those people already. Just starting that kind of idiocy. So I'm a great believer in get rid of the authenticity and replace it to the word transparency. And in today's world, we want to know who and we want to know why. So, we want to, you're a perfect example of a testimonial of me building a brand right, because you just literally turned around and gone, I know he's no nonsense. I know he likes to call it as he is. He likes to drink an old fat. And so when he does something, that those elements of who I am are going to bleed into whatever it is I provide. Now, if I was the person you've just mentioned, but I was going to talk about weight loss tablets, being the chubby that I am, or talk about hair products, being bald as a badger, those would be a disconnect, wouldn't they? So, you wouldn't find that there's any kind of continuity. And we want to turn around and we want to go, why is, you look at Elon Musk. People buy Tesla, people buy Cybertrucks, people buy solar systems, people buy all of these things because they like Elon. And they like what he stands for. I've never met anyone that's bought a Tesla but hates Elon, So you've got to understand what is the person behind it. Facebook, people go, I hate Facebook. I hate Mark Zuckerberg. Well, funny enough, he's not got a workforce of one. He's not just up there doing the entire thing himself. So you've got to understand that a brand today is what you embody, what you stand for, who you are as a personality, and understanding that whatever that person offers underneath it is an extension of that personality and that why.
Like on the one hand, it's kind of like you've got branding. On the other hand, you've got, more direct response marketing, which is like buy my stuff, right? Like it's a landing page with really slick copy that says buy the stuff right now, get into the funnel. And when we're talking about how to get more clients, like today in the here and now, put up a landing page, get your messaging right, get a good well dialed in offer, and that will drive business. But in the short run, like that's what you need, and that will get money in the door. But if you don't build a brand to support that, you're going to always be doing that, right? Like, whereas I think if the brand makes that easier over time, like if you do that over time, you have to do a lot less asking. How do you, tell me if I'm wrong. I think branding is more like the long game. And if it is, how do you measure ROI of it? Like, how do you determine, am I doing it right? Because I know it's not going to generate a client for me today, but how do I know along the way, am I doing this right?
Response, interaction, and communication, the engagement. If you are, and you've got to understand, branding is not followers. There's a lot of people that think, the ROI of branding is I get more followers. Your likes can't pay your bar tabs, so no one gives a shit. You've got to focus on the engagement. So if you're out there, and this is what I do now, I will literally go on there and I will pose a question. Hey, what do you think of this? Would this work if this could be created? And then you want to know if the brand that you've built is strong enough to enter into a conversation. You see, again, and I'm going to go back to it a million times in this conversation, people don't trust anyone today. We are in a very distrusting community. But if people are having a conversation with you, what do they have? They have trust. So if you're branding out there and going, hey, this doesn't work for me. Oh, I really like this. Oh, I stand for this. Oh, but what do you think on this? And you start getting that conversation, it's because people are starting to gravitate to who you are, what you stand for, and they like you. And it's the classic like, love, and buy. So, you know, they like what you're on about. Now, well, if I provided that, would it work for you? Give you an example. I found there's a brilliant guy, and it doesn't benefit me, but I'm thrilled to pass it out. There's a phenomenal guy called Joel Weldon, and he is a speaker coach. Anyone wants to learn how to write a speech, prepare a speech, he's my personal speaking coach. He is phenomenal. And I, all of a sudden, with these books coming out and realizing, well, I can't get credibility from Facebook because that's just adverts. I can't get credibility from the news because it's all fake news. No one trusts it. It's no good me being on the morning TV show because they won't give me the content. And secondly, no one watches TV anymore. So there was all of these credibility metrics that were dying, and I needed to get an instant ROI on the people following me to be able to build up whatever I was going to sell them. I realized that stages were vital. I had to get on stage. Now, me, I'm an introvert. You know, I play an extrovert really, really well, but I'm an introvert. I like to hide. I live up in the hills. I adopt dogs, ride motorcycles, so I can't give you a lift or pick up your coffee. You know, that's me. I like to be alone. But I knew that the stages was where the good ROI could be. So I got hold of Joel to teach me how to do a speech. The thing he didn't teach me was how to get that speech. You know, it's no good being able to write a brilliant song if you haven't got a record contract or some kind of distribution level. So I learned how to get on those stages. And then I literally went out and I went, look, you may be delivering the best speech in the world, but are you delivering it on the best stage in the world? I do this. Would this help you to have my kind of and people were like, yeah. I built a course around that. And I actually built a training program around it. And I do this a lot now. I go, hey, do you have a problem with this? Oh, Steve, I've got a problem. Well, let me see if I can be the solution to your problem. You see, the beautiful thing is, and we'll pick on Elon Musk again. I don't care if you like him or not, but he has our attention. And today we're in the attention currency. He sold flamethrowers. He sold trucks that were designed by Sub-Zero Fridge. He's done solar panels. He's got so many different things that everyone gets in and buys because of him. If he released a T-shirt tomorrow with just the letter E on it, how many of those do you think would sell out?
You'd sell a few.
Oh, absolutely. It'd be sold out by the end of the day. You can guarantee it. Because he's built a following, he's clear on what he stands for, and he has that transparency of his why. So it's the engagement. It's not the followers.
It is. How do you? Well, one thing I want to ask is like, how do you? If it's not followers, how do you measure the strength of your brand? And I guess one way to do that is say release an offer, and if anybody buys it, you've probably got an engaged audience. Before you release the offer, you release the conversation. You know, are you having a problem? Do you think your brand is getting you the clients that you want? Do you think that, you know, your product is better than your competitors? Who are your top 10 competitors? You know, just ask questions. And when you start getting that communication coming back, then you can go, all right, I see a lot of us have that same problem. Well, what if I design something that would actually benefit you? Just send me a DM going, great, you know, and you start building up. I like landing pages. I like slick landing pages. You know, I work with Jason Fladlin and Perry Belcher and all these guys who are masters at it. But I always like to have a conversation before I release an offer. And we've got these social platforms today where you can literally go on there and launch a business in a day. You know, is anyone concerned that our chihuahua gets cold at midnight? Would anyone really love to see a T-shirt for chihuahuas that kept them warm at night? You know, and when you get 200 people go, oh, yeah, that's good. Okay, well, I'll let you know how it goes. And then you follow up with those people. So I'm a great believer in the communication first because people want to know why you. Now, once you've built that up and another person that is only a brand and actually hasn't produced anything for decades is Richard Branson.
Richard Branson has not produced anything since the record stores. He's run around and he slaps his logo on Formula One teams, Coca-Cola, phones, wedding dresses. Virgin Galactic was Burt Rutan that built that. And then he bought the rights to stick Virgin on the side of it. It was never his. So he is a 100% brand. He's a decal. Whereas Elon actually produces stuff. That is funny enough. This is probably recorded or whatever, but that's one of the reasons Richard doesn't like doing panels with other top entrepreneurs. Because when he sits next to people like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and people like this, Larry Page, they've actually produced stuff. Richard's never actually produced anything.
Other than a wildly fucking profitable brand.
But it's just a brand. I've worked with him and I worked for his mum, Eve, for about 15 years. So I got a little bit of access into the Virgin world. And there's no facilities for building anything. It's all about brand placement, productivity, and how to make sure that decal. And they literally have departments going out trying to find companies that are in some kind of disruption or they're having an issue or they're facing bankruptcy, and they come along and go, do you know, your company wouldn't be on the edge of bankruptcy if it had a Virgin and that's why Virgin Mobile, Virgin Coca-Cola, Virgin Weddings, all of those kind of things came along.
Wow, it's fascinating when you think about it, when you break it down like that. And this may kind of answer that question, but maybe let's say Richard Branson's an outlier in terms of building a multi-billion-dollar brand, like just brand. And if you're in this room, right? Like if you're just starting out and you're saying, I know I need to build a brand to sell my services, to be a better consultant or a coach or whatever it is that you're selling. And you want to build it, but a lot of people are really reluctant to leverage a personal brand or build a personal brand because of the perceived lack of scalability. Like if I build this on my personal brand, it's going to leave me on the hook for all the content. I'm going to have to be the personality. I'm going to have to be the celebrity. And it doesn't feel scalable per se. And if you say somebody like Branson's an outlier, what would you say to somebody that says, I'm not going to build a personal brand because I don't think it'll scale and it'll keep me on the hook forever. So I'm going to try to do this without the personal brand.
I think you mix it for a start. Why? You're creating more work. Create your personal brand and create your business. Now, I have I don't know how many, but I've got a few businesses under the title Sims. Okay. Sims something. But my personal brand is under Steve D. Sims. So I'm the personal brand of me, and I've launched Sims X. Whatever it is. Gary Vaynerchuk's the same with Vanya Media, Vanya Speakers. Elon Musk, bearing in mind, hasn't even put Elon or Musk on any of his products. But he's a personal brand, which is the figurehead and the spokesperson. And again, we talk about Branson. Branson is a figurehead and spokesperson for the Virgin brand. So you don't have to have your company named you, but you need to be the person that says, hey, this is why I did this. Because I was pissed off. I was annoyed that there was nothing like it in the market. So I built it for you. You don't have to be the name over it. I had a conversation, a very lucky conversation a few years back with a good friend of mine, Jay Abraham, and Jay had Tony Robbins over his house at the time. And they were both joking away and having a laugh. And Tony and Jay both agreed that the biggest mistake they ever made was naming the companies after themselves. Because once they're gone, they're gone. But it doesn't mean that what they stand for has to go. I think they've got a very, very tough one. But if you look at the Branson, if you look at look at Larry Page, look at Mark Zuckerberg, those products aren't named after those people, but they still remain the personal brand for those companies. So you can be both, but I think by avoiding a personal brand, you end up becoming faceless. And I think in today's world, people want to know why and how, unless you're producing toilet roll. If you're producing toilet roll, if you're producing shampoo, I say shampoo, Jean-Paul DeJoria, look at him. He became the face of Paul Mitchell. If you're building something which just serves a simple product or solution or problem, like headache tablets, you don't have to worry about the packaging. But as soon as you start charging a little bit more, and this is where it becomes important, the second you start charging more, you need a face around it.
And the brand enhances the value. You know, you mentioned the speaking deal, and I want to ask this because for years I spoke as necessary, like I'm capable of it. I was part of my job as an executive, like shit like that. But when I spoke, it was always I always felt like, you know, I'm introverted, I'm nervous, public speaking is not my thing. I just do it as a utility to get through like what I've got to do. And until recently, I've started actually enjoying it. Like I get on stage and and my mindset around it has flipped, but I'm still an introvert, right? Like I'm still like, you get me, like when I'm done, I'm exhausted. Like I'm going to leave, I'm going to go to a quiet room. But a lot of people think being an introvert and public speaking are mutually exclusive. And I want to hit on this because speaking is a great avenue for new opportunities, and it's, you know, it's exponential. And I think that it's something that people in our group could leverage if we looked at it more. It's just not been something that I really look at. Is, you said you're an introvert. Like when introverts tell you I can't do that because I'm introverted, what do you usually tell them?
Good. If you look at a lot of the speakers out there on the planet, and probably the pinnacle of introvert is a friend of mine, Jim Quick. Introverts make the best speakers in the planet. They absolutely do, and I'll tell you why. Because introverts don't do shit unless it's worthwhile. An extrovert, he'll go on stage and drop his pants as long as he gets a round of applause. He doesn't care. But an introvert will be, I don't want to go to that stage. I don't want to be away from my family. I don't want to get on that plane. You know, you may get paid well, and in the early stages you won't, and then you will get into a very, very lucrative position. I'm literally building a kitchen off of my last speaking gig. So it can get incredibly profitable. But even now, you go, what's the point of me being there? And that's the secret source of every entrepreneur. Every introvert. They ask themselves, they question, what's the point of me being there? Well, it's a good audience. If it's not a good audience, if it's the wrong audience for you, like I would never do a speaking gig at, I don't know, a hairdresser's convention. You know, what's the point? Unless they're business owners. You know, so there's already, make sure the audience is right for you, and quizzical for absolutely everything. You probably enjoy it a lot more because you've got used to the structure, and without realizing it, subconsciously, you're lining up all the points and ticking all the boxes. Yes, it's the right community. Yes, it's the right place for me to distribute who I am and what I stand for. Yes, there could be great business out of it. But the introvert asks themselves that. And also the introvert, just like chess, knows how you come onto the stage, how to raise their interest, how to provide them with a problem, how to poke the bruise so they want that bruise gone, offer them the solution, give them the CTA, and leave them wanting more. An introvert is very, very good at calculating the anatomy of a good speech, how to deliver it. And an introvert and an extrovert will never do this. An introvert will get hold of the video, will hate it, but will watch themselves going, oh, God, I looked bad there. Oh, my God, why did I say that? And then we'll refine it. An extrovert just doesn't care. They got applause at the end of it, and it's brilliant. I had an extrovert client came one of my speaker training things, and he did this speech, and he came off. He had a standing ovation. And he got them all motivated, and he came off, and he was backstage, and I was there, and he was like, that was great. That was fantastic. And I said, good for you. I said, now what are they going to take out of that room? He was like, what? I said, when they walk out of that room, what are they going to action from what you spoke about? He couldn't tell me. And I said to him, you know the course you were trying to sell it? I went, yeah. When did you tell them about that? Oh, I didn't. Okay, so when did you put the slide up going, hey, contact me here for... Oh, I forgot to do that. It was the worst speech he ever gave. But because he got a standing ovation, he thought it was brilliant. An introvert calculates what's the point of being up there. So it's because of that hesitation that, trust me, as an introvert, you will deliver a better speech that has a greater ROI, greater impact, and a greater follow-up than an extrovert.
I actually say something similar when it comes to sales processes. And introverts, you know, when they're going through a discovery process and they're asking questions, this and that, like an extrovert just likes the discussion. Like they just like the engagement and the interaction. And because of that, they can have an entire hour of discovery and walk out and there's nothing really intentional. Whereas an introvert's like, I'm here for a specific reason. I'm going to ask calculated questions that are going to move me closer to closing the sale. And because I'm not here just for chat, So I think it's similar.
On that point, you really need to look at that seriously, because what's the point of going to an event? You could watch that speaker on YouTube. You could buy the book. One of the main reasons that people go to an event is to be in a room full of like-minded people and disconnect for the day of that education. And in today's world, there's no credibility metrics. Here's a perfect one. Now, we've got like about 5 people here with their cameras on. So how many of you, put your hand up, had heard of me before Ray introduced that I was coming on the show?
Yes.
One person.
Mm-hmm.
One person had heard of me. How many of you here, though, think I'm credible? And I'm not looking for ego, but how many of you think he must be credible, he must be trustworthy because of Ray? You imagine when you walk on a stage. I've got an event I'm doing in San Diego, a couple of weeks' time, a guy called Tommy Mello. The biggest growing industry at the moment is the home services, HVAC, electrical, plumbing, all of those kind of things. Because during COVID, everyone got the 2% mortgages. They can't leave now, so they're doing up their houses. You've literally got people flying into this home services industry convention on private jets and renting Rolls Royces while they're down. They are making bales at the moment. And I'm going along to speak to them. And they're all homeowner businesses. I think there's going to be about 3,000 people there in San Diego. And I'm going to have Tommy Mello, who is their Elvis, going, meet my dear friend and the greatest brand and expert in the planet, Steve Sims. I don't have to say anything. It is now my job to lose credibility.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't care if it's your local business bureau. I don't care if it's your best mates throwing a little webinar. When you can get somebody else go, hey, this guy's good. And as Ray was saying, he's been leading me up and teeing me up on LinkedIn for the past few weeks. And there's people on there that, again, never heard of me. They're going, oh, I want to follow this guy because Ray says he should. What other metrics out there do you think today? Instagram, Facebook ads, Google ads, Yelp reviews, testimonials, adverts, or even articles in magazines. What other platform today could carry enough instant credibility outside of a stage, even if it's online? Yeah. Sorry, Ray, carry on, mate.
No, that's a good point. Like the borrowed credibility, and then it's leveraged, like leveraged credibility, and it gets passed on. And that's the importance of, you build a big brand or a credible brand. People trust you. And so when you say something and you have somebody that you trust, so, like rising tides. I have 2 questions before I open up for Q&A. And one is, it's about pricing. And it's because I've heard you deliver some strong messages on people undercharging for their services, like underpricing themselves. And I talk to a lot of people. In fact, we've had a couple interactions like where we've talked and I've said, yeah, you know what? Let's dial it up. Like, let's increase it again. And there's always something. Maybe this is kind of like the branding thing. Like it's difficult to set your own value or something. But why do you think so many solopreneurs, service providers, people that are leveraging their personal brand or whatever it is to grow a business, underprice themselves? Because I see it all the time. And it's a cascading effect. Like you underprice your services, so you have to take on too many clients. Then you're delivering shoddy work because and it cascades. So why do you think people underprice themselves, and what do you usually tell them?
Yeah. And then they complain because they spent $20 and they weren't a millionaire within the first month of your course. Yeah. So you've always got, when you start focusing on the pricing, it's a really fast race to the bottom. There's a few things. For one, if you're ever in a conversation with someone over the price, it's your fault because you failed to demonstrate the value. You want to just load the value on and go, oh, by the way, sorry, I forgot. You actually get this as well. Oh, and by the way, if you're doing this, did you know that this can actually be? And then you get this portal. And people are like, holy shit. For that, you want your clients to feel as though they've just mugged you. That's what you want. You will need to load it on and go, oh, by the way, there's that. There's also another price point on there. They're not paying you for what you do. They're paying you for what they can be saved in the years that it would take them to get to where you are. I'm saving you time. There is not if I turned around to you now, every single one of you here, okay? And we've got no kids on this, but if I turned around to you and I went, hey, I have this tablet that can actually transport you back and you will be 10 years younger. You'd be selling your first kid for that tablet. You know, it's not a case of the money. It's a case of the outcome. The other thing is that when you start charging proper money, you know, your 1,000, your 2,000, your 5,000, your 10,000, therein, when you start giving your stuff away for free, you attract a lot of people that don't like to pay for anything. And then you turn around to them and you go, oh, did you do that we spoke about last week? And they go, no, I was binge watching The Sopranos for the 7th time. You know, they don't do it. But if I charge you $5,000, and I think my cheapest product, I think is 667, and then I go up, my most expensive product's 150 grand. But you know, when I start selling someone something for 50 grand and I go, right, you do this, you do this, you do this. When I speak to them in 2 weeks' time, guess what? They've done it. Because they're involved, they're engaged. So you get a different animal when you're charging those points. A lot of people will do, but I've just got to build up the community. No, it doesn't work like that. I've got a guy at this moment in time, and he wants to do a event in Arizona. And he said, I've been running these mixers for 4 years. And I'm like, what do you want to do? And he said, I want to get this event together. I want to get these speakers in. And I want to do, you know, the front row ticket prices of $1,000. And I'm like, so you've got this database? He's like, yeah, I've got a database of like 2,000 local people. How did you build up that database? I bought them drinks every Wednesday. So I said, so every Wednesday, people can come to your event, get a free drink and go home. And they went, yeah. And I went, how much do you think they're going to pay you? And I said, so what you need to do is you need to, before you book that property, before you do anything, because when you're doing a speaking gig, don't buy the property first, get the engagement. So you go, hey, who would like an early bird special on there? Early bird special, $8.99, who's in? He never had one sign up because it attracted a whole pile of people that don't like to pay for shit. But when you charge someone $1,000, hey, I want my money's worth. And so when they suddenly start realizing they're getting $5,000 worth of advice from one thing, they're like, oh, I mugged this person. Excellent. I'm staying. So a lot of it is fee phobia. A lot of people go, oh, you know, you should give this stuff away for free. It's creating impact. Yeah, tell your mortgage company that. Okay, so you should definitely be out there going, I can help save you. Let's be blunt. I can help you speak on stage. I can disrupt the way you do business. I can disrupt the way you think. Shouldn't I be charged for saving you 2 years to learn that yourself? If you're not confident enough to say something like that to someone, quite sure you should be selling your stuff.
We've seen, you know, it's interesting you mentioned this because we're doing some analysis on like our lead magnets, like our the giveaway to get them to bring people into the universe. And then, you know, you can market to them and they go on your list, this and that. And I had a course that I used to charge for. It's $150. And I said, you know what? If I give the course away, I can grow my brand faster because more people will get it. They will consume a shitload of value. And then I will have a better way of earning. They'll know who I am, right? And they'll say, okay, like he's legit. Okay, I get it. And that's true on the one hand. Like, so it has helped me build my list like significantly. It's a lot faster. But here's the kicker. The number of people that complete that course fell off of a fucking cliff. Yeah. Right. Because they didn't pay for it. So a ton of people see it and they go, oh, that's cool. And they put it in their pocket for later. And they go, I'll get to that later. Whereas the people that pay for it, typically, like if you've invested at least a little bit of money, you're at least going to start the course. You're at least going to like click on it, you know, and you'd be surprised how many people still don't. But like the A/B comparison. And so we're trying to determine, hey, what's the throughput on this? A ton more people on a list. But to your point, they wanted a free thing and they're not engaged enough to necessarily go through it versus much smaller group of people, but much higher impact. And so like measuring the actual throughput on that and like evaluating it. So
you don't also have to charge yourself. Okay. And I've done this a fair few times. I actually go to prison a lot. not because I'm a serial criminal, but I go in there to speak with inmates on how to transfer their entrepreneurial hustle from illegal to legal. So I'm quite often in a level 4 prison up in Tehachapi and Kern here in California. And so every now and then I would do an event, I would do a webinar, I would do a speaker training course, I'd do a brand awareness course, whatever it was. And I would say, look, how would you like the IRS to pay for you to get smarter? And then I would put a charitable donation link up there for like $100 that you had to donate $100 to this education system within the prisons, and you got to come on it. So you didn't pay me, and you got it as a taxable gift. And that got a great deal of generation. Yeah, you won't get 30,000 people sign up. You'll get 300. But guess what? That 300 are used now to getting out that credit card for you. Mm-hmm. So then when you go, oh, by the way, I've got this event going on and it's $1,500. Well, they've already paid you once. They'll pay you again. But when they never pay, that's a big hump to get over at the beginning. And you're right. Most people don't finish anything. Does anyone here have a book? Any of you authors?
I get pitched book like, hey, we'll help you write your book. We'll help you write your book.
Yeah.
All the time.
So the 80% of books are never read the whole way through. They're picked up, a couple of pages in, and you don't read them. So whenever you're doing courses, books, pamphlets, workbooks, anything like that, stick a QR code in on like the second page and just go, hey, before you consume this entire book, just scan this QR code. And if any of you ever read my books, you'll see that I've got those QR codes in there, not at the end, because I know they're never going to get to the end, but right up at the beginning. And that takes them to a video going, great, I just want you to know what you're going to get out of this book. 9 times out of 10, they get to that video, they hear me doing my cocky video, and then they get involved in the other thing. They never read the book. I literally do events and go, who here's bought my book? How many of you read it? No, we haven't read the book. So always throw the QR code in the beginning, knowing the kind of animal that you're dealing with. They're not going to consume everything. They want you.
Yeah. Those that do tend, like, you built a lot of trust because it's a dense resource. Like, it's a lot of information. Those that do, great way to earn credibility. But to your point, very few do. I think the number's like 85% with courses, and that's
exactly. But you put the QR code right at the beginning and they start seeing your video that's directed directly to them and go, look, a course is a course is a course. More than likely, statistics are saying you ain't going to finish it. Now, that's not to say that you're a lazy bastard, but you're just one of those statistics. You got 2 choices. Prove me wrong, or come to my one-day, event in Arizona this week for $20,000, something like that. And you got that chance.
Kevin in the chat said, I must be an outlier. I finished Bluefishing on Friday morning. No, I mean, I'm not surprised. Like, the people that are in this group, like, there's a selection bias probably to some degree too. I mean, I finished, what was it? Go for Stupid. I think I finished it in a weekend. Like, we met Friday. I was like, I'm going to go get this dude's book. And I listened to it and ripped through it on Audible. It's a great read. I want to jump into some Q&A from the group. And I've got one lined up from somebody that was on earlier, and she couldn't hop on, but she wanted to ask you this, and I'll just read it to you, Steve. It's, I've worked as a self-employed. I've been self-employed for 25 years. I've done pretty well, but I've got this really direct personality, and I'm really sharp in a room, and clients appreciate that. People get that once they meet me. But I posted on LinkedIn for about 18 months, once a day in German and once in English. And that honest, direct tone didn't come across well for me. Like, it didn't get her the traction that she wanted. How the hell do I stand out and bring a direct, sharp, the thing that I do, which is a big strength, to my brand, but make it work?
There's a lot of questions in there. For a start, how many of you here have got a dog? Put your hand up if you've got a cat or a dog. Okay. Now, what watch does your cat or dog wear? None. But it bloody well knows at 8 o'clock in the morning and 5 o'clock at night it needs to be fed. Mm. So consistency is everything. If you're releasing stuff at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday, release it every 9 o'clock on a Tuesday. Consistency, believe it or not, we're animals and we like habits and we like regularity and we feel a great deal of comfort in that kind of knowing that this is what's going on. So if you're doing anything, I wonder what her consistency is. I'm wondering, for a start, is it at the same time all the time? Also, the other question you got to know is, what's your number? How many clients can you actually take? And this is a very, very important thing. You see, having 1,000 followers, that's nice. But if you're looking for 2 clients, start burying into those 1,000 followers and going, hey, you've been following me for a while. Just wondered why. Shut up. Let them respond. See if it urges a question. You're only looking for 2, but you're fishing for 2 people in a bucket of 1,000. Should not be a problem. Know your numbers. How many people are you getting? Now, she said that she's working for someone, but she's very direct, and her directness has got... I'm wondering what ROI metrics she's trying to find. Is she trying to get followers? And is she saying things without engaging in a question? Like yesterday, and I'll give you my game plan. So every now and then, I release a speaker training program where you can come and get personally trained by me, and I'll teach you how to get paid on stage. Okay? I'm not going to tell you where it is. I'm not here to pitch it. But I went on Facebook and I made a little posting on there. Is TEDx really worth it? Question mark. And I got a lot of people coming back. Yes, but I'm like, well, hang on a minute. How can a platform that doesn't pay you, doesn't allow you to have that content on your site, it has to stay on TEDx. You're producing someone else's content for a fee that you paid to be over there, and you're not getting anything out of it, but they're doing okay. And so I started kind of like just rebut, and I've had a whole bunch of people that are, yeah, it doesn't make, and they're just sitting there waiting for a couple of days when I go, oh, I've got an idea. How would you like to get paid on stage and trained by someone who, guess what, gets paid to speak on stage? Not one of these gurus that can't do it, so they teach. Someone that actually gets paid. In fact, here's my records for this year on how much money I made getting paid on speaking gigs, and here's the next 3 contracts I've got for this year. That's what I'm loading up. So I'm wondering what metrics she's trying to achieve. Is she getting a lot of engagement? Is she getting a lot of followers and she's thinking that's the thing that she wants? Is she getting a lot of conversations? Because that's what everyone should want. And is she putting a CTA on there that's actually poking the bruise to get them to make a comment of which she can then start generating the engagement in? Because there's a lot of people that are still under the field of dreams kind of marketing, where they'll write something and they'll go, wow, that was smart. Everyone's going to now reach out to me and try to book me. No, they may read it and go, that's really smart. And they may do something with it. But for every person that likes your post or comments on your post, there's literally thousands of people that read it that just didn't make a comment.
Field of dreams marketing. We're going to find that in a hook somewhere for some of this video. I love that. That's super helpful. And I think it was in the book or just in a conversation, know your number. That's a really important point. Guys, when you stop and think about it, you think, because all of us are service providers of some sort, right? How many clients does it take to get to your next goal? Like the main goal that you have right now. And if you back into that number, if you're selling a $10,000 product, whatever it is, it's a hell of a lot fewer than you think it is. And you take that number and you say, okay, to get that many clients, I need to probably have X number of sales calls or conversations a month. And when you look at it that way, these big numbers, like huge engagement numbers and big audience numbers, start to mean a lot less. Because just as a specific example, we're migrating into Go High Level from an old CRM. And the person I have helping me is like, you have 14,000 contacts in your CRM that have opted in to shit, just through lead magnets, things like that. And it made me think, dude, we're still adding to the list, but there's 14,000 people in there. I mean, to make this community, for example, be what I want it to be, it's like there's a lot under your current umbrella if you actually look, and we're so focused on getting more people on the list, getting more leads, getting more from our cold audience, and we overlook what's in the warm audience. Again, I appreciate it, everybody. Steve D. Sims, I will see you in New York. And
I'm looking forward to it, pal. It's gonna be fun.
All right, looking forward to it as well. Thanks, everyone. Adios.
See you later.